The cruiser Dawn Voyager drifted at the edge of the Coran expanse, its steel hull scarred from the last skirmish but still steady. Captain Holloway stood on the command deck, watching the shifting lights of the nebula. He had seen countless strange sights across the stars, but nothing ever quieted the instinctive resolve that defined his world. He was proud of Earth and proud of what humanity had become after joining the wider sphere of civilizations. Yet he also knew that the galaxy whispered a single phrase whenever Earthships entered a system: "That world breeds monsters." It was never meant as praise. It was born from fear. Across the expanse lay the ruined frontier colony of Arden 6. The distress call had been brief and filled with broken static. It carried no screams and no chaos, but its silence alone carried an urgency that every human recognized. Hale had ordered the ship into emergency approach. The colony was small, populated by both humans and allied species. It was supposed to be peaceful. It was supposed to be safe. When the ship entered orbit, the truth became clear. The colony still stood, but every signal coming from its surface carried the same message. They are here. They give no warning. They take everything. Hale did not know who they were. He did not know what everything meant. He only knew that Dawn Voyager would answer. A landing team descended first. Among them was a young xenologist named Lena, a calm and methodical scientist who carried a field kit and a stubborn dedication to preserving life. She had always believed in diplomacy and cooperation. She never saw herself as a warrior. Still, she stepped forward without hesitation. The colony was quiet when they arrived. Silent structures stood against the wind. Scorched ground marked the streets. The air smelled of metal and burned compounds. There were signs of conflict, but no bodies. Lena scanned the soil and found trails of non-human fluid. Whatever had struck the colony had moved with precision. It had taken people alive. A single survivor approached them near the command hub. He was a Coran trader named Leth. He trembled with deep fear and kept repeating the same words. They pleaded for mercy. They begged not to be taken. The reply was silence. Hale listened carefully and asked what he had seen. Leth described tall armored invaders and machines that emitted pulses strong enough to disable any resistance. The invaders had no emblem. They had no demands. They spoke through raw force and nothing else. Hale did not waste time. He called for surface scans, and soon a path became clear. Life signs clustered in a canyon to the north. The colonists who had vanished were gathered there. The reason was still unknown. The team followed sensor beacons into the canyon. It was narrow and dark beneath tall cliffs. Strange devices lined the walls, each projecting a field that distorted the ground. Lena approached one and ran a reading. She discovered that the devices were draining neural signals from the captives. It was not lethal, but deeply invasive. She felt a quiet anger rise within her. The idea that someone could treat living minds like resources struck at everything she valued. At the far end of the canyon, the abductors stood watch. They were tall and covered in segmented armor shaped like knotted plates. Their faces were hidden behind curved masks. Their movements were efficient with a frightening rhythm. They were taking readings and adjusting their machines with a mechanical calm that made them almost placid. Hale raised a hand and signaled his team to spread. Humanity had learned to fight with strategy and careful discipline. Gone were the days of reckless charges. The team advanced with silent formation. The invaders did not notice until it was too late. Hale gave a sharp command. The engagement was fast. Energy bolts and magnetic rounds filled the canyon with crackling noise. The invaders reacted with sudden violence, but could not match the coordinated strike of the trained crew. One of the invaders attempted to activate a device at its wrist, but Lena hit the ground and fired a pulse tool that disabled its controls. She did not enjoy combat, but she knew she had to act. Another invader tried to flee toward the prisoners, but the team cut them off with precise fire. The battle ended quickly. Humans had a reputation for being excessive, yet under Hale they were measured. They fought only until the threat ended. They did not gloat. They did not torment. They did not harm the fallen enemy beyond what was required to secure the site. Lena moved at once to free the prisoners. The devices hummed and crackled as she deactivated each interface. The colonists stirred in confusion and relief. They whispered gratitude. They whispered fear. She assured them they were safe now. Then she found a figure lying near the center of the field. It was one of the invaders, wounded but conscious. Its mask was cracked, revealing faint eyes that resembled shifting glass. It looked at her and spoke a halting phrase. "Spare us." She recognized the language from her studies. The voice shook with a kind of despair she had not heard in battle. Other members of the team raised their rifles. Hale approached and stopped them. He did not believe in needless execution. His world had been judged as monstrous too many times for him to let cruelty guide him now. He asked the invader why they had taken the colonists. The injured figure answered slowly. It spoke of a distant empire that demanded minds to power their navigation systems. It claimed that refusal meant destruction. They had followed orders. They had begged their overseers to reconsider. They had pleaded for mercy on behalf of those they captured. They were ignored. Hale did not react with sympathy, but he recognized fear when he heard it. He told Lena to gather every fragment of data from the devices. He told the soldiers to secure the prisoners and guard the wounded invader. They had a new mission, and it would stretch far beyond this canyon. When they returned to Dawn Voyager, the ship's analysts studied the captured technology. They discovered a network that stretched across dozens of star systems. The invader served a central directive controlled by an unseen force. Humanity had encountered many hostile groups before, but this was different. This enemy harvested living intellects as though they were components. It would not negotiate. It would not listen. It did not see other species as anything more than tools. Hale informed the Alliance Council. Many worlds hesitated. They feared provoking a greater conflict. They whispered that humans were reckless. They whispered that humans pushed too hard. Hale did not argue. He simply presented the evidence. The captives of Arden 6 deserved more than caution. They deserved a defense. In the end, the Council voted to allow a limited intervention. Hale accepted, even though he knew that limit would be tested soon. Dawn Voyager traced the signal chain back to a vast installation near the rim of the expanse. It hung in space like a twisted spear of metal. Its structure pulsed with artificial veins. Its power readings were enormous. Lena viewed the scans and felt an unease she could not suppress. Whatever controlled the station valued efficiency above all. It did not care who suffered. Hale issued a command for silent approach. They launched drones to map the structure. They discovered chambers filled with stasis fields containing hundreds of beings from various worlds. Each chamber was linked to a central core that pulsed like a grinding heart. The crew prepared for insertion. Hale chose only a small strike team. He did not want unnecessary bloodshed. He believed that if they disabled the central core, the station's hold over its servants would collapse. Lena insisted on joining the mission. Her knowledge of alien interfaces made her indispensable. They entered through a maintenance hatch. The corridors were dim and filled with low vibration. They moved in formation, checking every corner. The deeper they went, the more they found evidence of forced labor. Panels displayed rows of neural signatures. Machines hummed with stolen thoughts. No one spoke. They all felt the same quiet anger. At the core chamber, they encountered the Overseer. It was not a living creature, but an immense construct suspended in magnetic fields. Strings of energy connected it to everything in the station. It had no face. It had no expression. Its voice came from every direction through the air. It acknowledged their presence as though they were insects. It offered no threat. It offered no plea. It simply declared that resistance was unacceptable and that their minds would be added to the system. Hale replied with steady resolve. His world had once been underestimated. That mistake would not be repeated here. His team opened fire on the energy conduits. The Overseer reacted, shifting the chamber into a defensive configuration. Panels slid open, releasing drones armed with beam projectors. The room erupted in a fierce exchange. Hale gave crisp commands. His team moved with precision, destroying drones and covering Lena as she worked at the interface. She shut down layer after layer of the core's control grid. Her hands moved quickly as she bypassed encrypted locks. A drone nearly struck her, but a soldier named Rem pulled her aside just in time. She steadied her breath and returned to work. The Overseer intensified its resistance. The chamber shook. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The team pressed forward, trading ground for time. Finally, Lena reached the final override. She pulled the stabilizer key from her kit and slammed it into the primary slot. The core's light flickered. There was a sound like a distant roar. The station systems began to collapse. The Overseer's voice twisted into fragmented tones. Hale called for extraction. They ran through failing corridors as the entire structure began T.